What does your camera say about you? It can represent an impulsive decision, a careful decision, indecision. Oftentimes, we don't really know what we need until we put our hands on it and get to know it. I try not to get too distracted from tech, especially on this channel. I don't think I've mentioned a camera brand in the past few videos, which I'm kind of proud of. But I thought it might be some low-stakes fun to take a look at my photography journey through the lens, pun intended, of every stills camera I've ever used. People can make amazing work on garbage equipment. I won my first photo awards on a point-and-shoot 5-megapixel digital camera. I think many people, especially in the age of YouTube, overthink their kit before they have any clue who they are. You, as a creative person, are a much better investment than any piece of gear that is going to give you incremental improvement. Looking back, it gave me a chance to see how my camera choices aligned more and more with my creative goals as a photographer. And this list is not a brag. It's the result of 30 years of photography. I've been a professional photographer for the past 15 of those years. So these cameras, any upgrades I do are business expenses. And like I said about YouTube constantly trying to upsell you on stuff you don't need, I'm so debt averse, I put off buying an expensive piece of gear until I am so sure to my core that I actually need it. And then I tell myself, as I commonly do, that I'm an idiot for waiting that long. Shooting jobs with consumer level equipment made me really focus in on exactly what I was looking for in a professional tool. So I've got a box of cameras here. The first camera is my dad's Canonette 28. It was my dad's baby when I was a kid. It doesn't work anymore. I can't get it working. This is probably the first camera I ever touched in my life. We had this Polaroid Impulse for family events and stuff. This is probably the second camera I ever touched. Film was expensive. The next camera I remember is this Canon SureShot A1. We won it in a hospital lottery. It's actually a roll of film in it right now. We had to get my aunt who lived in the city to pick this up for us downtown Toronto, and we were country folk. It has a trick, and that's that it's waterproof. It was the first camera I could take out in the rain, I could jump in the pool with. So it was the first camera I probably ever used creatively. So the next camera is in a bag because it's broken. This is a Nicormat FTN. I ran it into the ground and I tried to fix it, and I quickly found out that I was in way above my head. So it is now in a bag with some parts. This is where it all started, with a 50mm prime lens. This camera saw me through high school and into college, where part of our graphic design course was having a film SLR with a 50mm lens. This is the camera where I really started to look at the world differently. This is the first digital camera I ever touched in my life. The part about it that's interesting is it came with a disc. You photographed on a disc. The camera is very, very slow. We would take a picture in my high school and then just hold it while it recorded to the disc. Didn't have Google or anything to figure that stuff out. The ability to have images on a computer quickly, and keep in mind, this is like 1998. I could put them on my very early website or something like that and share them, which was cool. I made a video on this camera a few years ago in the early days of my YouTube channel, and the photos are just garbage. It is a purely nostalgic device. Even a young person today who thinks early digital media is cool and retro, they're looking for video vibes around the edges of their photos, and this is just like, it's terrible. This was a cool camera that my dad bought from my sister, a Yashica Zoom 870. This is not the actual one, but this is one I bought that I can't get working. And I remember taking pictures with this camera. I was young, maybe like 16 years old. I think it's the lens on this camera. It's just really high quality lens. I remember thinking how sharp and cool the photos looked, and I was very jealous of my sister's camera. So I would take pictures with it anytime I could, but she always had her own roll of film in it. This is my first real digital camera. Look at this thing. This is so weird. It was just like a big lens, but I think it was an f2 lens on this thing, which was pretty cool. So you had depth of field in your images. I went to college for graphic design, and part of that program was taking product shots of all the packaging that we designed. And we would do it with film SLRs, but we only had incandescent bulbs. And all the film was daylight balance. So you get a print from the lab and everything was super warm and tungsten. We didn't know what white balance really was. This camera kind of solved all of that, having a little representation of what we were shooting, figuring out how to do white balance, how to take shots, get them on the computer. But my product shots looked really great, and it was because of this camera. I was at the same time doing a lot of creative photography on this, and this is the camera that I mentioned that I won some photo awards on this like kind of garbage digital camera. But it was the beginning of me sort of figuring out a photo style. You had feedback right away. Digital to me was definitely my crash course in composition and lighting. The RZ67 was a camera that was loaned to me. It was wild to be shooting with a 5 megapixel digital camera, which has its own kind of benefits, but then to flip over to a 6x7 medium format film camera was just incredible. Because of the slowness of it, it really forces you to figure out what you want through the viewfinder before you commit. This is the camera that made me really realize what film size felt like. I don't even know what the sensor size is on this camera. It's just like a little half-inch chip or something. And then to go all the way to 6x7 negatives, it really is a stark contrast, and it really educates you how incredible of a field of view a medium format camera gives you. The RZ67 was a camera you needed a light meter for, you needed a tripod. It's not run and gun. It's a very different way of shooting. So I was shooting medium format on the RZ67, and those cameras have interchangeable backs. On set, you would have a bunch of film backs, so you could shoot, and then take that film back off, hand it to an assistant, and get a new fresh film back on and keep shooting. But on top of that, before digital, you would get what's called a Polaroid back, and it would take Polaroid pack film. And on a photo shoot where you had a client, you could take your film back off and you could put a Polaroid back on, and you could take a Polaroid shot of your setup. Now we have digital capture stations where the client can see the images as we're shooting. That pack film had been around forever. If you've been to like an antique market, you've probably seen these Polaroid land cameras that open up. They're kind of cheap because they don't make the film anymore, but you can see I still have film in this one. They took like a proprietary battery, and I would daisy chain 2 AA's together and kind of tape it to the side of this, hold a flash, and do party shots. This has a Fuji 100 film in it, but they also had a black and white 3000 ISO film, which was nice and grainy. So it would be fun to get one working again and just burn through the film I have. The next camera I tried I don't have was a Canon EOS 20D. A friend I worked with had it. It was a professional body. It was a crop sensor camera. I really loved it. It was like Canon's professional DSLR body, but I was poor and I couldn't afford it. So I ended up buying the Canon Rebel XTI. It's also called the 400D, my first DSLR. I did my first paid gigs on that camera. I dropped it on asphalt and it kept on chugging. It was the camera that made me really want to become a photographer. The photos I was taking and the style I was developing and the flexibility of working with raw images, it all came together on this camera. I very quickly upgraded from the kit lens to the nifty 50, and then later a Canon 28. The next film camera that I had was this Yashica 635 TLR, and I actually love this camera. It's tiny, but it works great, and it has a really cool lens in it that gives you almost like a Petzval style swirly background blur. I got this camera at an estate sale for next to nothing, 6x6 negatives, medium format, and I also got to play with a Hasselblad 501 CM. It was a friend of mine's camera, and she loaned it to me. Beautiful camera. The RZ67 was a beast, and the 501 is just like a perfect size. I took some great shots with it. The only problem with the Hasselblad is it came with a 50mm lens. A 50mm is quite wide. A lot of the shots I took on that camera feel very wide. But overall, the Hasselblad is a beautiful camera, and even today, I'm not willing to shell out what they're selling for. Working with these medium format cameras, as beautiful as they are, made me realize that creatively, I loved the flexibility of just finding shots and not really needing a lot of setup. I love chasing around kids or people or shooting in maybe not perfect conditions in order to get a more emotive image. That's sort of the style of photography that I leaned into more and more. I didn't really push for a Hasselblad or something like that. Those cameras are technically better. I just doubled down on 35mm. My Nikkor mat was broken. I hadn't shot with a SLR for a while because, idiot, I thought I could fix it. So Tony at work brought this in one day and asked if I wanted it, and he gave it to me, this little Olympus OM1. It's as minimal as they could get it. It's my favorite film 35mm SLR, and I still use it. I haven't even replaced the seals. This is the camera that stopped me from caring about buying any other film SLR. After shooting my Canon XTI and 400D for years and years, I tried out the Canon 7D, but its parlor trick was 720 slow motion video. I'll go through video cameras in a separate video, but I tried that camera for stills as well. To me, even though it was a pro body, the true upgrade I was looking for was full frame 35mm digital. So my next camera was the Canon 5D Mark II. It was my first pro camera. And it is the camera that saw me through my transition from working in advertising to being a professional commercial photographer. It's the foundation of my business for years. I was just married, starting a family, living in a shoebox-sized house. So the camera was a big investment, but I knew which way I wanted to take my career. So I bought the camera, and I do not regret that purchase. As I pushed ISO and shot in sort of non-ideal conditions, you could see the edges of the Canon 5D Mark II sensor. And I did a job, and my digital capture guy suggested D810, I think it is. And it was a rental. We shot a job for the History Channel. We were shooting video and still. So we were shooting on a red cam at 800 ISO. And I wanted to use the same lighting for stills that I had to shoot on the same set. 800 ISO would have been super noisy on my 5D Mark II. And the images were incredible out of that camera. I did a bit of digging around, and I realized that it was a Sony sensor, and they had just released a camera called the A7R with that same sensor. The Sony was probably less than half the price of the Nikon, so I went out and I bought it, and I bought a 35mm lens, this little Zeiss 35mm tiny lens, and a 55, which I've since sold. And I really like that R. Less than a year later, I had upgraded to the R Mark II. It was an all-around spec-wise better camera. Just having the stabilization in the sensor could buy me a few extra stops in light. So I could shoot in even more demanding places. No flippy screen on it, which is fine. You see people talking online about how people who use the viewfinder are superior, but if I shoot through the viewfinder, I'm going to be taking a photo of the top of your head because I am very tall. They don't think about me. This camera was a workhorse. It's still a great little camera. I shot a campaign for Air Canada with this camera. Just working on an airplane the size of this let me get into places that would be tough with a camera with a big lens and a big pro body and a grip on it. So I've never been embarrassed about how pathetic my gear looks. It's just as YouTube started to go nuts over the Sony A series of cameras, my love for this camera started to really fade. I started to look back and compare shots that I took on the 5D, and I just always preferred the color of the images from my Canon. They just always looked so much better straight out of camera. I tried to fight that feeling for years thinking, oh, it's just raw data, I can fix it, but I never could. It's sort of like that painting that the woman tried to fix and just kept smudging it, making it look worse and worse and worse. The images looked less and less natural. It's just with stills. I'm shooting on a Sony right now, and it's just my personal preference. My main thing I love shooting is people. I felt the skin was just sort of a little less lifelike than from my Canon. I shot with this camera for 5 years and then finally bought the Canon R5, which is what I use to this day. I've been using this camera since 2021. I love this camera so much. The images are great. I made a video about it, but my reasons for buying this is that I don't want to be a camera technician. I don't want to worry about color science to the point where I have to be constantly figuring out how to fix it and work in software. I want to photograph people. I want to have fun doing it. I want to get really compelling shots. I don't want to have to spend a lot of time getting them to a place where I remember the emotions on set or the emotions we're trying to achieve. So if I can just shoot and have a tool that fills in those gaps really well, I'm happier. And that's what this camera does for me. It lets me be a photographer and not a retoucher. Images from this started to feel very overworked very quickly. If you're looking down at your tool too much, you're not looking up at your subject and what you're there to shoot. You're not working on the most important part of being a photographer, which is what is in front of the camera. It's been 4.5 years on this camera, and I don't really see any need to upgrade in the next little while. Equipment is not a zero-sum game. If you like shooting on Sony for stills and I like shooting on Canon for stills, that does not mean that I think your photos are inferior. I hate the idea of this being like a Ford Chevy thing where guys just razz each other. The people in the circles that I work in, we're so focused on what we're producing with our cameras. I don't really care what you're shooting on. So keep in mind that this is just a list for fun. It's a little bit of my path as a creative photographer. And just know that because I made a decision about Sony or Canon, don't take it personally. You have your own path that you're on. And the differences between my path and your path are what makes us unique. A film interlude. During the pandemic, I went on a little bit of a film buying spree. I sold the A7R on Marketplace, and there was this young photographer struggling to find money to buy it, and I noticed he was selling this AE1, so I let him barter this as part of his purchase. I gave him too good of a deal, but you know, AE1 is a classic. So I tried this camera out. I do not like it compared to my Olympus. This is an AE1 program, and it feels very plasticky and cheap compared to my Olympus, or especially my old Nikon map. The AE1 is a fine camera. I see people recommending it as a great beginner camera, and it would be a great beginner camera. I just think there are better, more solid options. Also, this has electronics in it, which kind of scares me, whereas something like this, you just need a little coin battery for your light meter. Everything else is fully manual. I bought a little Olympus point and shoot, which was fun to use. At this camera shop that was closing down, I bought this Canon A35F, which I actually really like. It's sort of the next evolution of my dad's old Canonet camera. Then I bought my RB67. I co-bought it with my nephew, who is a young photographer, and he has it right now. It's a monster. It's fully mechanical. It is a beast. So I don't shoot with it much. It's just kind of nice to have because I wanted a 6x7 camera. My most recent camera purchase is the one I'm recording this on, and I bought it because it's kind of the perfect hybrid camera. It's the Sony A7C. I missed this package, being able to put it in my jacket pocket and take it around when I go to events. The A7C, based on the A7 IV, is to me a super ideal hybrid camera that shoots great photography but also shoots 10-bit video. The A7C is essentially that in a smaller package. I can put my 35 on it and travel across the world and take pictures and have it in my pocket. If there's anything I want you to get from this list, hopefully it's not bragging, but it's sort of the long-term approach it takes to any creative endeavor. If someone starts talking about a big Hasselblad camera, there's some new digital ones that are pretty cool. I would love to try them out, but I'm not tempted to buy them because I know where I am with photography and the direction my photos take. I don't get tempted or distracted by tech too much. Have I made mistakes? For sure. I went down a road with Sony that I kind of regret, and I ended up shooting with Sony again for stills. So it's not that big of a deal. Gear is such a small part of what you have to offer as a creative person. But at the end of the day, I can take a good shot on a garbage camera, but I can also take a really terrible shot on an expensive camera. An outdated digital camera with a ton of wear on it, a camera that you could operate in the dark, is a way better tool than the newest, freshest camera that you stumble through using. Oh, just rent cameras before you buy them. If a friend has a camera, try them out. I could have fallen down the path of buying a $40,000 phase camera system in the early 2000s when maybe studio photography is not something that's important to me. Through trial and error, trying a lot of systems and really thinking through my creative approach, I probably saved a lot of money. Just like expecting a new keyboard to make you a best-selling author or a cool new high-tech wooden spoon is going to make you an expert baker, the fundamentals of photography are always so much more important than any incremental, small, marginal gain that upgrading your camera is going to give you. Cameras, they don't matter. They matter, but they don't matter. Even though they matter, they don't really matter. They matter to a point, but as soon as they matter, they don't matter anymore. So if you kind of get sick of talking about cameras like I do, and I just talked about them for 20 minutes, know that there's more to life than cameras. All of the pictures that I took on this trip that I mentioned, and I'm slowly designing a zine around it, so I will let you know when that is available. I'm trying to figure out ways to offer things for people to help support my channel, and the zine is going to be one of the first things that will be available if you like my videos. If you have a Patreon account, sign up for free and I'll let you know when the zine is ready. Thanks for watching.